Thank you. Good evening. I know we are the last session, but we'll ensure that it's very interesting and you go out with some insights. Let me invite the panelists for the evening. I would like to invite Abhilash onto the stage first. Abhilash is a senior director at Citrix. He is an expert in product management. He looks after the networking and the cloud products at Citrix. He has a lot of experience on networking products and also information security. So I think we'll find his insights very, very useful. And we've talked about some of the things that he's going to share. I can guarantee you that you'll find it very, very useful. Let me now invite Anil Nair. Anil is senior director at Cisco, and he heads the product engineering initiatives for all the networking security products at Cisco. So firewall and stuff like that is his baby. He's been a big Cisco veteran. Even before that, he's worked for Nortel. So he's a big unique combination of networking and security. That's a big part of cybersecurity. Now, Bharath Kalyanram. Bharath is amazing. I mean, just listen to his experience. He has been a CIO. He has led he has been the CEO of many IT services companies. He has run an advisory firm, and he has also led product development initiatives at Computer Associates and Oracle. So currently he's with Oracle, leading the product development initiatives at Oracle. So what a rich and diverse experience to talk about cybersecurity. Last but not the least, the startup guy, the youngest guy amongst us, Subho Halder. So he's the co-founder and CTO of a mobile application security company called Appknox. So he's got a lot of insights on how to develop secure mobile applications, how to make sure they're all safe. So, I think you can't have a better set of panelists to talk about this topic, the future of cybersecurity, or the long-term view of cybersecurity. I would request you to give them a big round of applause before we start. Thank you, Abhilash, Anil, Bharath, and Subho. Let me start with some initial comments on this topic. Not really long ago, everything in our house was in-house. So we used to have all our valuables inside the house. There used to be a small locker. There used to be a treasury. Our parents used to be very scared to leave the house alone and go anywhere. They used to ensure that somebody comes and sleeps at home. And then came the bank lockers. So after the initial skepticism, people got comfortable with bank lockers. And the fact that you come back home with a key of the bank locker give you the peace of mind, right? So that's the real life world security parallel that one can draw. In the digital world, it was very similar. The CIOs had their large, big data centers. They were physically secluded. Only people who had limited access could go into those data centers to do their operations. Right? So that was the original world. Then what happened? Outsourcing happened. The lack of talent or better talent. Then cloud happened. Smarter programming languages came. Smarter operating systems came. You could now develop applications in a matter of months, which used to take years, because there were ready-made modules which were available and they were easy to integrate. So all this happened somewhere down the line of this so-called evolution. People forgot to pay enough attention to privacy, security, and confidentiality. And some of the issues that we are seeing in the world of cybersecurity today is because of those negligences that have happened over the last 15 to 20 years. I think that's something that we should definitely discuss. So because of this concern and the complexity, or negligence, many organizations today have roles like Chief Data Officer, Chief Information Security Officer. These roles never existed for a long time. There was a CIO who used to manage their infrastructure, IT infrastructure. Now there are CISOs in most of the organizations. And what do those guys do? Because of lack of insights, most often than not, CISOs reject new services because they're not sure what security implication it will have for the enterprise. So that impact is very harsh on the enterprise because it actually limits the flexibility that's given to the enterprise or the employees. Now, on top of it, security or cybersecurity today is no longer a backroom component of the CIO. It's no longer something that's hidden somewhere and somebody else bothers about it. Today, in the board discussions, cybersecurity is a seat. I mean, it takes a seat in the board discussions today. Cybersecurity has become very, very important because of the implications, because of stuff that has moved into cloud, stuff that has moved away from your enterprise perimeter. So just imagine, from being a physical guard, security guard that used to guard everything that belonged to us, to moving to CISOs, and now cybersecurity being discussed in board discussions very prominently. So to me, cybersecurity evolution means this in a very lighter sense. So there is a very serious thing to discuss and ensure that it is fixed before it becomes out of control. So looking ahead, so this has been the past and the present. Looking ahead, we talk about AI, artificial intelligence, bring your own devices, robotics, multiple user identities. I hope Subho talks about some of these. Then big data, IoT, I think this previous topic, wearables, software-defined infrastructure is a big piece. All of these are going to offer even bigger challenges to this whole cybersecurity concept. Now, so we're not sure, honestly, how the future of cybersecurity will look like. However, we're sure that organizations like these and many more will ensure that they will address all the cybersecurity concerns as they come out with newer products while not compromising on end user flexibility and productivity of the enterprises. So we are pretty sure about it, but we're not sure how that will unfold, and we'll probably get some insights from these four panelists. So we are very honored and even lucky to have senior executives from Cisco, Citrix, Oracle, and Appknox. Let's hear from them. So what I'll do is I'll probably invite each of the panelists to talk and express their views for 3 to 4 minutes. Then there'll be a round of questions by me and then from all of you in the audience. Finally, we'll conclude it with few concluding remarks. Is that fine? Yeah, great. So Abhilash, I would like to request you to express your thoughts on this topic, given this background.
Thank you, Ananda. And thank you for being explicit in mentioning 4 minutes, right? We were just chatting and having lunch together that this is such an interesting topic that all of us can independently talk for 40 minutes on this topic, right? Cybersecurity, because today cybersecurity is not about just going to Amazon to buy your laptops or durables. Even for buying vegetables, you want to go to cyber cells, right? The web, where you want to do everything. So our life depends on it. It's no more that technology enables our life. Bharath mentioned earlier in the day that we live with technology, right? It's like we live the life with technology, and being secure is not just about your computer. Being secure is about securing your life, securing your perimeter, right? So I have a few things which I wanted to bring to your attention, which we are focused on. Number one, for example, why are we so paranoid today? Why are we so worried today? Because we are going through a massive transition. Transition in the way we did business. Today, if you go to an IT administrator and say that, hey, what are you talking about? Security? You don't have the perimeter anymore. What do you mean? Because you used to have your own perimeter, you had your own IPS, you had your own firewall, you had your own devices which secured your network. Well, you might have your network is still there, but your apps have moved to AWS. Your apps are being delivered from a hybrid location, hybrid data center, hybrid cloud. So it's no more the question of, can I control, because you don't own it, right? So we all have to embrace the fact that we are going through this transition where you don't own the applications, you don't own where they get delivered from, you just consume it, right? So can you still continue to focus on, hey, I'm going to buy the next generation fastest firewall and make sure, and I'll be sure that nobody can attack me? That's not going to help. So where do you focus, right? in this transitioning world and transitioning technologies, where do you focus? For us, the number one focus is the application itself. Your data and your app is the real important thing, and your application is on the move. Every application processes data which are of different types. Some applications deal with your consumer data, some applications deal with your secure data, like your passwords, like your financial data, your healthcare data. So every application has a distinct need of what and how it needs to be secured, right? Hence, we work on a concept called software-defined perimeter, which revolves around the application. And like software is changing our life, you can change the perimeter or the definition of perimeter every time you define it for a new app. The second important thing we need to worry about is we, right, the users. Why? Because we are no more, like in the previous panel, I was listening to the first panel, and there were very good comments around the user is no more sitting inside the enterprise. You or me as a user, the moment we go out, we want to be connected all the time. Like we all are carrying our power backups to be connected all the time, right? We land on an airport, and the first thing we do in an international site is to look at where I can get the Wi-Fi. Well, you don't know that all those Wi-Fi data and all that communication is not secured because you get it for free, right? So the second important thing is that you need to worry about user and identity. The third important thing, because Anand is looking at me, I'm going to speed up. The third important thing is that you need to embrace technology, right? Technology which enables you to secure, like technology enables and exposes a lot of data and security loopholes. It enables you to secure because there are things like UEBA, things like CASB, which can really help you make sure that wherever your user is, you can track and secure the access, you can secure the identity of the user, you can secure the data which is being downloaded from the application. Really, really important. The next thing is you want to be careful about what you are analyzing. So analytics is another really important thing which we all have to worry about, and big companies like Citrix, Microsoft, Cisco, we are already working together on delivering security analytics because we are the ones who deliver the applications, whether it's means of virtual application or the network or the Microsoft apps like the productivity apps we deal with every day. And last but not the least, you got to be also aware of the DOS attacks. And why I mentioned the DOS attacks is very linked to the previous panel. Nobody, who's attacking you today, right? If you talk about the last most effective DOS attack, it was the Dyn attack, which happened in October last year, and it was totally based on IoT. So if you paid attention to the last panel, you would appreciate the fact that it's not people who are going to attack you. It's the devices which are going to attack you, so you need a different and a better mechanism to secure your application data and most importantly, the user identity, which is really, really crucial for you.
Yeah, thank you, Abhilash. Thank you
I'm
so
sorry,
much. We took 6 minutes, but we'll try and be optimal.
There were 6 distinct points I wanted to talk about.
Absolutely. Can I just request Anil to express his views?
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity, by the way. So the first, absolutely, I think both of you touched upon is the aspect that the landscape is changing. What used to be a control environment is no more the control environment. We talked about IoT, we talked about how the boundaries and the perimeters are changing and so on and so forth. I mean, one interesting aspect over here is that if you look at the IoT attacks, the companies who build the endpoints, the cameras, I mean, you're going to see 5 rupee, 10 rupee IoT devices. They don't really have a big motivation to make it secure. So it changes the economies significantly. It's not in their interest that they spend the time to make them secure. So anyway, the landscape is changing drastically. But on the other side, if you look at the threat landscape, that also is changing significantly. And the economics of the landscape is changing dramatically and drastically. So it used to be, I mean, several years back, it used to be the geeky stuff in terms of building up the viruses and spreading it out. You get the name and so on and so forth, and it changed to the Nigerian scammers. I mean, send out 10 million emails. If I get one guy, I get maybe $1,000 out of that. But it has drastically changed. There's a marketplace that exists today. I mean, I can go in and buy the bot kits, the malware kits. and you have nation states behind this, and state actors, you read about that all the time. The ransomware, where the money is immediate. You don't, I mean, the ROI and your horizon of investment is pretty short. And you don't have to worry about how you get the money back. You have the bitcoins and you're pretty safe. So the threat landscape is very different. And in fact, there is possibly more money behind the bad actors than the money being put on securing the infrastructure. I mean, that's a major change. Now, shift again, look at the customer. I mean, you need to be, I mean, from enterprise perspective, you want to get your assets secure. And you go out on the market, and there are probably 500 to 1,000 products available, all claiming security. And we used to track how our competitive landscape starts looking in different segments. And we ran it for about 18 months, and we started running out of space in the slide. A single slide, we couldn't capture it. And we did some surveys, and we have possibly anywhere from 15 to 75 security vendors in the Fortune 500 companies.
Anil, you have 1 more minute.
All right, thanks. I'll go fast. So, I mean, it is pretty complex. From a customer perspective, they are not looking for, what they're looking for is, I need to be protected, my assets need to be protected. And what you get is a lot of point products. So looking forward, it's very important to kind of really look at what you're trying to solve. I mean, it's a holistic security. It's not just protecting one aspect or this thing or the other. And that architectural view to security is very critical. And close integration across vendors and the industry in general, and having a holistic view at it. And I know that a lot of startups are in the audience and are part of this. And if you're thinking about starting something in security, please keep this in mind. It's very hard to have point products solve a problem. Think about integration. That has to be very core to how you think about the solution. So I just want to kind of lay that out.
Thank you. Perfect timing. Thank you. Yeah. Bharath, over to you.
Thanks a lot. You know, it's curious. I was listening to Abhilash, I was listening to Anil, and I was thinking to myself, okay, am I going to say anything really different? And the fact of the matter is that, you know, all of us are right in the middle of, you know, I'm going to use a cliche over here called the perfect storm. And the perfect storm is of our environments being completely dynamic. I mean, all of us compute anywhere. We've got a mobile phone, you compute anywhere, right? You've got the second element of the perfect storm where threats are continually evolving. They're dynamic. You've got threats these days that are sitting resident in your environment already, and they're waiting for you to do your next backup to get triggered. So not only can you not recover from your backup because you're dead, right? So you've got threats that are evolving, that are dynamic. You've got a workforce that is individuals who are computing anywhere. And then you've got a third element of a proliferation of content. You've got content that exists anywhere. You've got digital assets of corporations. You've got your personal digital assets that are sitting on the cloud, that are sitting in your desktop, in your device. So in order to be able to manage all of this, what I believe is required is not, so the old paradigm, so given these three factors, the old paradigm of securing a perimeter, ring fencing an asset is not possible because the asset exists everywhere. It's ubiquitous, it's all pervasive. So where can you secure? And we believe that you can secure at its very basis is the identity itself. Today, every one of us has an identity. Our smartphones. Your identity is already defined by the fact that you're carrying a computing device in your hand. That's your identity. So if I can build I can protect you, then I know what your activities are going to be. Then I know what you could potentially do, and I know where you're doing it from. And not just that, I can then start deciding, I can even start predicting what your potential behavior could be when you're operating inside your firewall and when you're computing from a coffee day. So suddenly you find a completely new model of security that is built around dynamism and a continuously evolving risk profile and a risk environment. So the old rules of having standard sets of policies within an enterprise that define that, okay, this guy's a manager, he's got these many rights, this person's an individual contributor, they've got these many rights, all of that goes out the window.
Bharath, half a minute left.
I'm good. So what I'd like to propose is that definitely the old paradigm is gone. And the new paradigm is that the identity is where the new perimeter is. And that identity is going to be able to, has to be capable of protecting the user, the content, and the network. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Bharath. Yeah, Subho, over to you. Startup guy.
Oh God, just a startup guy. Yeah, it's really difficult to talk after 3 rounds of all security, next generation of security. But okay, let me come up into this point. Raise your hands if you're using Android phones.
Wow.
And what about iOS devices, iPhones? Rich people. All are rich people. All right, anyways. How many of you are not using a smartphone? Why? My question is why? And the answer to that is very simple. Because a non-smartphone device does not have Wi-Fi. It does not have any apps. You use your smartphone to be connected with your peers, to be connected with your internet. You see, the smartphone is your passport to your online world. That's what all of them have been saying. All I did was just make yourself realize that's what we were discussing. Okay, coming back to the second point, which everyone again reinforced about IoT. The problem with, which I was hearing from others, where we should not be considering the normal flow of security, which we have been doing for the past, I don't know, decades. But now we need to dynamically change and innovate our security procedures, not only because we have different threats which are coming into pictures, but also there is no protocol. So let me tell you this. When GSM, you know what GSM is, right? The GSM network, the phone network which you guys use. The GSM was made by 4 big corporates. They came together, they made an alliance saying that this is the protocol a GSM network should work, right? Similarly, a web protocol was made, like an HTTP protocol, a stack was made. For an IoT, there is no such protocol. Is there any such protocol? We use anything to connect with any way, using any what devices, right? We use Bluetooth to connect with Wi-Fi, to serve a JSON response, to give a motor running left or right. So since we do not have a proper protocol, the security attack surface for these kind of IoT devices increases. So there again, the point gets validated. We can no longer have that these are the only limits for the security testing to be done. We need to expand and make it more dynamic. So we need to understand what are the threats. We need to model these threats accordingly. And some of these modeling of the threats are no longer a theoretical model because of the entering of the IoT in the whole equation, it changes. It's not only a software-based security threats, you have so many other security threats which are coming into pictures. How many minutes do you have?
We have 2 more minutes.
Awesome.
Actually, 1 more minute, sorry.
But yeah, so basically, I'm from a startup called Appknox, right? And we focus on mobile security. I'm not going to talk about Appknox though, but I'm going to talk about why do we only focus on mobile security. Now, if I go and ask you, like, we focus on mobile security, you would look at me and say, oh, you're a startup, small guy. Mobile security, that's what your niche is. But no, what I have seen, even in the previous panel, even in the previous any other talks in the whole country, last year when I was in Dubai attending a conference about smart cities, they were saying that they are gonna control the whole electricity of the house with an app. The problem with all the IoT stuff is it always ends in an app, right? It always ends in an app. Even for industrial automation, right? So even in the previous panel, when the Bosch guy who was over here, who was discussing about a smart home without renovating the whole home, that was the only part which I heard, sorry.
Well, almost time up.
Oh, sorry. I realized that was app. Done. Yeah. So that's where I can see, that's where Appknox comes into the picture, and that's where the fundamentals of security which we are trying to solve at Appknox. But yeah, I'm kind of done.
Thank you so much. Yeah. You know, what I'll do is I'll ask each of the panelists one question, and then maybe throw it out open to the audience. You know, feel free. Ask the most uncomfortable questions that you have in the field of cybersecurity. Now, the first question is to Anil, and so when I think of Anil, I think of Cisco, obviously, and companies like Cisco have really made our life tough. So I have my endpoint, which is my laptop, and if I have to go to cloud from my endpoint, the number of layers of devices that the endpoint has to go through is unbelievable. So you start with your endpoint, you go to your proxy, then you probably go to some CASB, then there is some server to scan your DLP policies. Finally you go through one more layer of switch, then firewall, then few layers of routers. By the time you reach your cloud, it looks like thousands of devices have been scanned or have been processed, right? Will the life become easier? We're talking about CASBs, cybersecurity, and all of that. Will you guys ever make our life easy and say from endpoint to cloud there's only one device?
Actually, good question and excellent timing as well. I'll come to that in a moment. But the way you started, we in engineering on the networking side typically have this paradigm called the day in the life of a packet. And what you're talking about was how does the packet go through, and something that we can all relate to. And obviously, the way the networking and the security evolved, there's a long history to that, but obviously we know where it has to go. Just 2 days back, in fact yesterday, we made a huge announcement called networking by intent. So simplifying the concept of networking. So it actually gave me an opportunity to kind of make our marketing pitch. But it was not a predefined question, by the way. So
Absolutely not.
The vision around that is to really look at the network based on the business outcomes you want to have. This is the outcome that you want to have, and being able to define it and articulate it in business language, and you don't have to worry about all those translations that happen in the middle.
Very good, yeah. Thank you.
That's the direction that we are headed towards, and we just announced that.
I think, Anil, we are looking forward to that day. I'm sure all of you would agree with that, right? It'll be a great day in the life of IT professional to have simple packet going to the cloud with one hop. Great. Over to you, Subho. I've done a lot of work in the security stuff, cybersecurity. In the context of mobile applications and security, is there ever going to be a better alternative to HTTPS? And when you talk about data in transit, today the only option that we have is HTTPS, and that to me is extremely cumbersome. It probably slows down stuff. Is there a future to it where things will be better?
Yes, I think there is a future, and people have already started working on it. I mean, if you look at your phones, you have push notifications, right? That's one way of communicating. Then you have WebSockets, right? It's a continuous connection. Once it opens up, it never stops. Like, you can stream stuffs through that. So there are certain ways of communication which is coming over. There are binary communications. There are RPC calls using protobufs. But again, HTTPS is still the standard. The standard needs to be improved. So HTTP version 2 is now the standard. Version 3 is being reworked. I hope a lot of more of HTML stuff gets reworked. Yeah, I think there would be a next generation step to support not only mobile apps but also web together. So Google came up with this thing called Instant App. Have you heard about that? Instant App is like, if you go to a website, you have the same app kind of feeling, but you do not need to download the app at all, right? That's an Instant App. So again, the way they wrote the Instant App is just basically a Java code embedded into an HTML page which just loads in runtime. So people are coming up with hot patches and hot fixes to on top of HTTP and HTTPS, but I'm pretty sure people are going to get fed up, and then they're going to come up, just like HTTP came up, they're going to come up with a better, more redundant, more secure way of
Great, let's hope.
communication.
Guys, let's hope. I think we'll have a better life with that, yeah. Abhilash, over to you. Been a big, not say I've been, but I had been a big fan of Citrix products. But when I think of Citrix, I think you guys try to control too much. Even if I know you guys use Amazon Cloud today, but then again it has to be under your control and all of that. How do you marry that tendency to control everything with BYOD? How many of you believe in BYOD? Isn't it a great thing? Yes, great. So how do you marry BYOD with what Citrix believes in? I mean, it's
Great question. Actually, I feel that you asked it in favor of us, okay?
Okay.
So the fundamental principle of what Citrix does is all about security, right? In the world, 20 years back, Citrix has been delivering apps for over 25 years. The fundamental reason of why people use VDI, beyond all of the other cost, performance benefits, is security, because your app never leaves the data center. Your data never leaves the data center. What you see on a virtual app is just bits, and those are like your mouse movements, your keyboard movements. So there is nothing in transit which you can attack. Citrix was one of the first companies to promote BYOD, and it is in our interest, as I said, because when you bring your own device, the enterprise cannot control every single device, but what enterprise can do is to allow you to do VDI on every single device. So you can install the Citrix receiver application today on any device you have, any device, Android, iPhone, Samsung. On Samsung, the new phone, it comes as a default app. You can install it anywhere and use it, and when you connect using our VDI app, the data and the app never travels outside the data center, and hence, by definition, it is better security.
Great, yeah, thank you. I mean, great, I knew the answer, but it's good that it came from you. Bharath, over to you. I've been interacting with many
I'm worried about this guy.
I've been interacting with many CIOs of large enterprises all across the globe. And of late, in the last 1 year, at least 3 of them have told me, Anand, is there a way that the end user is not allowed to copy anything from the laptop? Forget, I mean, they've already disabled the USB drives. Even if you download anything, if you're viewing anything, they should not be allowed to copy and paste. Is that fair on the end users? I mean, is it too much of lack of trust? I mean, you've been a CIO before. How does the world, I mean, I know there is security issues, but is that not taking it too far?
Having been a CIO, I also know the perils of being one. And the perils of being one are that neither can you protect yourself, nor can you protect your users from themselves. So having said that, in today's world of, content anywhere, access anywhere, compute anywhere, just the sheer perspective of saying that I'm going to control the user from doing certain things is itself sort of contra to the whole point of saying, hey, access anywhere, compute anywhere, content anywhere, right? So our philosophy, and when I say our philosophy, this is an evolving philosophy because it's a very new thing that we're working on and that's happening, is we're actually talking about modeling behaviors. Isn't it far better to be able to predict or prevent or detect and then figure out how to respond, as opposed to saying, I'm going to respond right in the beginning and then I'll figure out the rest?
Very good, yeah.
Right?
Thank you.
So the context now becomes far more important. So for example, I am working in the purchasing department of a large corporation. I get purchase orders, SOWs that come in from my vendor, right? Now I need to be able to download that off of someplace. The vendor may put it into his personal Dropbox account, and I need to be able to access it from anywhere. Similarly, I need the responses to be able to be put up on a content somewhere else, on a location somewhere else. So in this world, it's far better to, rather than prevent somebody from doing something, is to be able to detect it and enable that identity. You remember earlier when I said that the identity is the perimeter? I would rather protect the identity and the content rather than trying to control the identity and the content.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you. I mean, we should be able to do that without adding another layer of device by Anil, right? I mean, so Anil shouldn't add another layer.
Anil, he's really got it in for you, man.
Great. Yeah, thank you. You know, I know we're probably running out of time, but I would like to encourage some of you in the audience to ask questions that may be bothering you. It's a great opportunity. You know, feel free and take this opportunity to ask. We'll probably ask for a 5-minute extension of the deadline. Any questions that are there in your mind that you may want to clarify here? Yeah, we're standing between you and coffee, or yeah, please go ahead.
I can get out. So, how much do you think is security, percentage of investment is going towards app development versus you're spending so much money on security versus this, right? How much percentage do you think is going towards?
Great. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you've all heard the question. His question was how much of the software development budget is going towards considerations for security. Oh, do you have anybody in mind?
Anybody can, I think.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So, Bharath, do you want to answer that?
I'll just say straight off, you don't spend enough. And I'm not being facetious about it. I really mean it. If I look at it, I get to meet customers a fair amount. I can also tell you from my previous life what it used to be like. There is an oversimplification in the minds of CIOs, even today, about this whole concept of security. I was talking recently to a very large bank, Indian bank, and it's unbelievable. I've got my product manager who's sitting right here with me, Kamal, and the context was they're going through this massive transformation within the bank. Bunch of mergers and acquisitions and stuff like that that's taking place, becoming one massive entity. And guess what? They don't have a single identity store. So they have no idea where the identities are. Right? I mean, they have a guess. So my point being this, that if you don't start from basic principles, then you're doomed to repeat the same mistakes and then just apply patches into it, hoping, and hope is a very poor strategy, right, that things are not going to go bad. So I'm telling you right now, I can't stress this enough. In the global context or in the local context, the amount that we do not do in terms of cybersecurity is going to bite us. Yep. There is no two way. And come on, I mean, all these guys have talked about the threats. You all know, you all read the papers, you all read, see the news. And you also heard of Vladimir Putin, so heck.
Great. Subho, any comment? A quick one, really quick.
Yeah, I would say that we being a startup, we approach other startups for security. Can you understand how tough it is for us? They don't have a budget even for development, and we approach them for security. I'll just tell you how the market is like globally. Security is more like a reactive in nature. Once a hacker hacks you, you then think, shit, I should have spent $10,000 extra for the security. I would have been hacked a year later, not now, right? So that's the problem with the security market, because it's really reactive market, and we try to make it more proactive.
Great,
so,
yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions, please? Yeah, please. I mean, I'll. Can we take 5 minutes extra? Is that anyway? Yeah, great. So I think I like the questions. Yeah.
Can we develop a security system which does not impact the user's existing workflow?
Yeah, good point. Anil, would you like to answer, and maybe then Abhilash is also, but maybe Anil first and then.
Yeah, I'll take a crack at it. So there's a notion that security comes at the cost of something else, whether it's functionality or usability or whatever. That's the wrong way to look at it. I mean, so I'm going to combine both your questions, and in my view, as customers, you should demand security the same way you demand functionality or user experience. I mean, today that awareness is not there, and once that awareness comes, you will start seeing vendors and developers looking at security in different view.
Excellent. Yeah.
And that awareness and demand, and you should be feeling entitled to that. And what you said, I mean, once that awareness comes, you will start seeing innovation where security is not at the cost of whatever it is. I mean, it has to be really embedded.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Abhilash, over to you, quickly.
Yep. Just to add to what Anil said, and Ananda exposed Anil by saying that a lot of Cisco devices on the path, but they really do not sit and obstruct the workflow, right? I mean, it's just that it is, there's a concept we are developing of unified policy, right? You need a unified policy which can identify the identity and help protect the identity and the flow of data across the entire ecosystem. You don't care about how many devices.
Okay.
You don't care about how many layers, right? So security never adds another layer to the workflow. For example, very, very simple example I would give is you access Gmail from here, go down to North America and access Gmail, they will ask for a second authentication parameter. They won't just trust you based on your email ID because they just figured out that yesterday you were in India, today you are in North America. Either there is something wrong or you better provide me your phone number or something which I can make sure of who you are. So that's how we need to look at security.
Great, yeah. I think there were a few more questions, yeah. Please.
So my question is, what is the impact that currently we are seeing in terms of performance? As we move on to the next generation, cybersecurity, we'll have scalability aspects to consider, throughput aspects to consider. So what are the issues in terms of performance we foresee, and what are the challenges that we are facing currently?
Great question. I think, you want to take that, Bharath?
Yeah. Gives me an opportunity to pitch for our identity cloud
You
service.
should do that, yeah.
So, I mean...
But he's talking about performance. Though.
Yeah, that's exactly why. So, if you look at, man, this is too cool. I'm glad you asked that question because all of us know that, the moment you get to the cloud, it's all a game of scale, right? I mean, you want to... Well, I'm glad you brought it up, is my point.
I was quite surprised this topic didn't come up.
I'm glad you brought it up. So when you talk about scaling up and scaling out, right, the challenges of this whole thing are enormous. So when we start architecting systems for the cloud itself, the architecture is fundamentally different. The engineering that goes into, developing those types of products or applications is entirely different. Now, if you look at what we're doing in Oracle is that we actually have, security that exists at all three layers. Whether you take the IaaS layer, which is the infrastructure as a service, or the PaaS layer, or the SaaS layer, right? Now, if you look at fundamentals of security on the cloud, right? So whether it's the Oracle Public Cloud or AWS or Azure or anything, at the fundamental level, you got to be able to secure the cloud infrastructure itself, right? So the scalability and the performance that comes into or that exists at that IaaS layer itself has to be something that practically has no impact on the performance when you come all the way down from the SaaS layer.
Yeah.
Right? So today's systems and IDCS, which is our identity cloud service, has been engineered specifically from that perspective. If I tell you about the PSR, as we call it, performance, scalability, and reliability groups that we've got within Oracle that actually go out there to be able to ensure the scalability requirements and the performance requirements and the reliability requirements. I mean, it's mind-boggling. But it starts with the fundamental premise of the architecting of those security systems that exist at every layer.
Great, yeah. Thank you. Bharath, thank you so much. Yeah. One more question. I think we have time for one more question. My job is at stake.
Yeah.
So tomorrow, you guys have to pay for me tomorrow.
I'll make sure that doesn't harm you. So a quick question. So when we talk about cybersecurity, if the attacker impersonates a legitimate user, then all your policies and rules are taken for a ride, right? Then what should be the strategy in that scenario that even a legitimate user who might be an attacker, they are blocked from accessing the confidential information?
Excellent question, and very good question. Abhilash, would you?
Well, I really want to answer that, but we do question answer every day. He works with me, so but that's okay.
Oh, then I think it's better that let Anil answer. Let Anil answer. I think it's better that.
So let me take a slightly different aspect of that, right? So if you look at what's exposure from a security perspective today for enterprises? The insider attacks are even more dangerous or prevalent or relevant than the external attacks. And it's not always intentional attacks. I mean, there's a lack of awareness and some stupidity. I mean, user stupidity is probably a big factor in there. And all those things, it's not just an impersonation. The fact is that a legitimate user can really mess up your security profile. So when you think about an architecture around security, you have to take into consideration that your legitimate users are going to make a mistake, and your attacks are going to come from, as much as from within than from outside. So if you architecturally assume that this is just one more aspect of an insider attack. I mean, I don't want to go into the details into how you can kind of and address each and every one of them. You can talk offline about it, but at a macro level, I want to point out that this is just one more specific instance of an insider attack.
Great, yeah. Thank you. Thank you, folks. I know it was the last session. Just one more minute. I think we have an important statement. I want you to hear that. So before we came onto the stage, 5 of us met, and we all thought, and we talked about whether there will be a solution which is elegant enough to this issue of cybersecurity. And all of us agreed, yes, eventually there will be a great solution. And we have a joint theory. And the theory is the security of the cyber world will improve twofold in every year from now on. That's our theory. It's a corollary of the Moore's law, which talks about the density of transistors will double every 2 years per unit area. So that's our parting comment. And thank you so much for being such a nice audience. I know it was the last session. Hope you got some insights from it. Thank you. Thank you so much.